How much can a bare patch of dirt earn if you stop farming it and start renting it out by the night? Let us actually buy a campground and run the numbers. Rural land is cheap, sometimes $1,000 an acre. You clear it, you run in power and water, and you lay out campsites. On a single acre you fit 8 to 12 of them, and a full hookup site rents for $50, $70, even over $80 a night in peak season. Even half full through a summer, that 1 acre can gross tens of thousands of dollars. That same acre, left as farmland, might rent for a couple $100 in an entire year. Sounds like you print money by turning a cornfield into a parking lot for tents. Except the season is short, the pool and the Wi-Fi everyone now demands cost a fortune, and the number that decides whether you get rich is not the nightly rate. It is how many of those nights you can actually fill, and who is still parked there when the tourists drive home. So what does the dirt really earn by the night? Why is private equity quietly buying up every campground it can find? And what is the one number that separates a gold mine from a mud pit? 2 ways in, and they cost very different amounts. You can build one on raw land, or buy a park that already runs. Land itself ranges from about $1,000 an acre in the middle of nowhere to over $100,000 near the good spots. A small rustic campground might cost $500,000 all in. A mid-size recreational vehicle park runs $1.5 to $5 million. To finance it, government-backed loans go up to $5 million with 25-year terms, and in one recent year, campgrounds pulled in about $90 million across 64 of them. You can go independent, or you can fly a flag. One franchise name, with over 500 locations, is the one with the yellow sign you have seen on every highway. But most parks in America are independent, family-owned, and often a little worn around the edges, and that last part matters, because of who is buying now. Family owners are being pushed aside by institutional money, real estate investment trusts and private equity funds moving in on a business that used to belong to mom and pop. Hold that thought, because the reason they are coming is the whole point of this video. Buy a campground and 4 things come attached. First, the infrastructure buried under every site. Power, water, and sewer. And modern recreational vehicles are hungry. They want 50 amp electric service, big pull-through spaces, and plenty of water pressure. The most common nasty surprise after you buy is finding the wiring or the septic cannot handle the load, and fixing that is a very deep hole. Second, seasonality, and it rules everything. Most campgrounds earn in a short window, a summer, a peak, a few good months, and then pay their bills for the other 6. A park up north might do almost all of its business between June and September and bleed money the rest of the year. Third, the amenity arms race. Guests now expect hotel-level comfort in the woods, clean bathhouses, a pool, activities, and above all, working Wi-Fi. Building out strong Wi-Fi alone can cost $30,000 to $100,000. And if you do not have these things, you cannot charge the rate, so they are not really optional. And fourth, the permits. New campgrounds are hard to get approved, and some counties have stopped issuing permits for new ones. That is a headache going in, but it is also, quietly, your protection once you are in. 5 ways a campground pays, and the mix between them is the entire strategy. Number 1, nightly, transient sites. Travelers passing through, paying the highest rate, staying a night or two. High turnover, high price, and completely dependent on the season. Number 2, long-term and seasonal sites. Campers who park for the whole season or the whole year. Their nightly rate is far lower, something like $600 a month, but it is steady money that fills the park in the quiet stretches. Number 3, cabins and glamping. Put a structure on a site and it rents at a big premium, and it captures every family that wants to camp without owning a recreational vehicle. Number 4, the little stuff, which is not little. Firewood, the camp store, propane, laundry, golf cart and bike rentals, kayaks, pet services. Altogether, this can be 5 to 15% of revenue, at a much higher margin than the sites. Number 5, events, group bookings and storage for boats and off-season vehicles. What runs through all of it is transient against long-term. Nightly campers pay more but vanish in the off-season. Seasonal campers pay less but keep the lights on all year. That balance is the whole business. The dirt is the same dirt. What changes everything is that you are renting it by the night instead of by the crop. Pack 8 to 12 sites onto an acre, rent each one for $50 to $80 a night, and that single acre can gross tens of thousands of dollars across a season. The exact same acre, as farmland, might rent for a couple $100 in a year. That land did not get better. You just started charging for time on it, instead of for what grows out of it. And that is precisely why the smart money is circling. On an established park, yields run 8 to 12%, and total returns of 10 to 20% a year are common, far above what an apartment building or the stock market pays. That is why a trust like Equity Lifestyle, which owns 226 recreational vehicle resorts with over 90,000 sites, and giants like Sun Communities, are buying campgrounds as fast as they can find them. They worked out the same thing you just did. Listen to that again. You are not really in the camping business. You are in the business of renting time on cheap dirt. And the dirt does not care that it used to grow corn. So what does it cost to run one? Start with the infrastructure, which never stops needing money. Upgrading a site from partial to full hookup runs $5,000 to $15,000 every site, and modern rigs keep demanding more power. Then staff, seasonal workers, an on-site manager, and a workforce that turns over constantly, often stuck on the bottom rung of the pay scale. Then the amenities you are now obligated to provide: pool upkeep, Wi-Fi, bathhouses, activities. Every one of them is a cost, and every one of them is what lets you charge a real rate. Then marketing and booking software, because guests now book online and compare you against every park in the state before arriving. And running under everything, the seasonality tax. You carry the property, the staff, and the maintenance straight through the dead months, when almost no money is coming in. The costs do not take the winter off, even when the campers do. Here is the trap, in one sentence. The dirt is cheap, but the debt is not, and the season will not wait. Your revenue is crammed into a few months. Your mortgage payment comes every single one of them. So if you overpay, pile on debt, get a rained-out summer, or bought a northern park where winter runs half the year, the lender does not care. A campground with a big balloon loan and a short season can hand itself straight back to the bank after one bad summer. Land was the easy part to afford. The debt on top of it, in a business that only earns for a quarter of the year, is what breaks people. To see the whole idea in one story, go back to a cattleman in Montana with a piece of land he could not use. Dave Drum, a businessman in Billings, had built 2 big cattle feedlots in the 1950s. He had bought a scenic parcel along the Yellowstone River for another one, but a local farmer cut off its irrigation, and the land sat vacant and useless for cattle. Then, in 1962, the Seattle World's Fair sent thousands of families driving straight through Montana, sleeping on roadsides and in parking lots, because decent campgrounds barely existed. Drum looked at his useless riverside dirt and saw a business. He turned it into the Billings campground. For $1.75 a night, a family got a site with a picnic table and a fire ring, and something almost no campground offered back then: a store, hot showers, laundry, and electric hookups. That comfort was the whole innovation. It worked instantly, and by 1963, they were selling franchises. They wanted to call it Campgrounds of America, but could not trademark an everyday word, so they spelled it with a K. Within 10 years, there were hundreds of them across the continent, and today over 500, the largest system of privately owned campgrounds on Earth. And here is the entire thesis, sitting right there in the founding. His first one was a piece of farmland that a cut irrigation line had rendered worthless. Drum took that exact same dirt and, by renting it out one night at a time, turned it into one of the most valuable campgrounds in America. The land never changed, only the use did. Now the most seductive idea in this business, and the company it destroyed. Instead of charging by the night, you sell a membership. People pay a big fee up front, then camp as much as they like. And here is the catch: they never own a thing. Thousand Trails, founded in 1972 by a man named Milt Kualt, built one of the largest membership campground networks in the country on exactly that promise. Members paid thousands of dollars up front for access to campgrounds they would never own. It came down to the arithmetic. Selling those memberships cost a fortune in marketing, at one point twice as much as the down payments coming in the door. So the company funded its expansion by borrowing against the payments members had not even made yet. In 1984, it announced record earnings of $19 million and burned through $52 million more in cash than it produced. Across 1986 and 87, it lost $67 million. Its debt climbed to 244% of shareholders' equity. In May of 1991, the company filed for bankruptcy, and here is the part that matters. Its campgrounds themselves were fine. People still wanted to camp. The sites were still full. What blew up was the financial model bolted on top, selling memberships and borrowing against them faster than the cash ever arrived. The dirt itself was never the problem. The scheme built on top of it was 5 habits, straight out of everything you just saw. Habit 1. Buy for the whole year, not the peak. Judge the park on how it does in the slow months, not on one glorious weekend in July, because you have to survive the slow months. Habit 2. Get the mix right. Enough seasonal and long-term campers to carry the fixed costs through winter. Enough nightly sites to grab the high summer rates. That balance is the business. Habit 3. Add the amenities that lift the rate. Wi-Fi, a pool, cabins, glamping. At a well-chosen park, these pay for themselves, pushing income up 30 to 60% within a couple of years. Habit 4. Keep the debt sane and the season in mind. A short season, plus a big balloon loan, is the single most common way these places die. Habit 5. Own the scarcity. New parks are hard to permit, and some counties have banned them outright. So a good park in a strong location has real pricing power. Guard it. Both ends, clearly. The good year. Cheap land, 8 to 12 sites an acre. A packed summer, a healthy blend of nightly and seasonal campers, and a camp store and a few cabins adding margin on top. Those yields, 8 to 12% and sometimes better, are exactly why the trusts are buying. A well-run park throws off cash and climbs in value every time you raise the rate. The bad year, a rained-out summer, or a northern park staring down a 6-month winter, or too much debt, and the fixed costs and the mortgage grind you down through the dead season. Or you get clever, bolt a membership scheme on top, and end up as the next 1,000 trails. Look at the two ends side by side. A well-located park with a smart mix of nightly and seasonal campers, cash flowing, climbing in value, bought out by a trust at a premium, and an over-leveraged short-season park or a membership scheme handed back to the bank. Same dirt, opposite outcome. Land was cheap in both cases. The plan built on top of it was everything. So does it work? Yes, if you buy the right dirt in the right place, get the mix right, and keep the debt low. And no, if you pay for July and forget about January, or borrow against a promise the way 1,000 Trails did. Every part of this points at one simple truth. You were never really in the camping business. Dave Drum took a piece of farmland that a cut irrigation line had made worthless, and by renting it out by the night, turned it into the first franchise campground and the seed of the largest network in the country. 1,000 Trails took that same simple business, wrapped a membership scheme around it, borrowed against the future, and went bankrupt while its campgrounds stayed full. And today, the smart money, the trusts and the private equity funds, is quietly buying cheap dirt all across the country, because an acre rented out by the night out earns an acre of almost anything else. You were in the business of buying cheap dirt and selling time on it, one night at a time, to people who bring their own house. Land was always the cheap part. What you are really selling is the night, and the night is worth far more than the dirt it sits on.